Hello, everybody, and welcome to You've Got Mail. Monarch 1.2 has arrived. We are so excited that you're joining us today, and as you're making your way in, definitely make sure that you're going to take the poll so that our esteemed presenters can know a little bit more about you, and know where you're joining us from, how you heard about this webinar, and also a little bit about your occupation. So take a minute and do that, and I will go over some of the ground rules of this webinar after you guys take the survey. And we'll just give that about a minute or half a minute or so. We'll see. All right. So just a little bit about the ground rules of this webinar. So there will be no ACV REP credits for this partner showcase. We will have closed captioning available. And of course, we would love if you would type all of your questions in the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat and we will be monitoring it throughout the webinar. And of course, at the end of the webinar, we will also have those questions available from our presenters. So let's go over a little bit about the poll that we just launched here and let our presenters know a little bit about who you guys are. So it looks like the first question that we ask in our poll is always, what is your job title? And it looks like we have about 72% of teachers of students with visual impairments or TVIs. We have some orientation and mobility specialists on here, assistive technology specialists, parents, paraprofessionals, and we have some others from other occupations. In terms of where people are joining us from today, we have actually somewhat equal representation here from the Northeast. About 18% of our participants are from the Northeast and 21% from the Southeast. We have some from the Northwest and about 23% from the Southwest and 26% from the Midwest. We have 3% joining us from European countries, and of course we have 5% from outside of that range, so everybody's welcome. We are very glad to have you today, and the majority of you guys heard about this webinar through an email from APH. So thank you for joining us. We're going to get started. Today we have Greg Stilson and Jason Martin with us, and they're going to go ahead and introduce themselves and then take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Amanda. And welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. As Amanda said, my name is Greg Stilson. I lead the Global Technology Innovations team here at the American Printing House for the Blind, and the Monarch has kind of been co-led by myself and Andrew Flatras over at Humanware. I've been with APH since 2020, but have been in the field longer than I'd like to admit, and excited to be here with you. I'm going to introduce my colleague, Jason Martin.
Hi, so I'm Jason Martin, and I'm a Technical Innovations Product Manager here at APH. And I've been at APH for almost 2 years now, and I'm a teacher of the visually impaired at heart and by trade and an AT specialist. And at APH, I've worked on a few Monarch applications that you might have seen called Monarch Chess and the Monarch Startup application. And what you're going to see today, Wing It.
Awesome. Let's check out this poll.
Awesome. So we have our first poll of the webinar. The question is, are you using a Monarch today? And your options are yes, considering it, or no. And we'll leave you guys a little bit to answer the question, and then we'll go over some of the results.
I am using a Monarch today, right now.
I'm sure Jason is too.
I am using one. I'll click yes.
I also have a Monarch, but I don't have an option to check yes, so since I'm only the host.
I love that you say you're only the host. You have all the control, like all of it.
I know, that's what makes me like the most special part of this webinar, even though I'm not presenting. So, but it is what it is. I get to see all the behind the scenes stuff of this. So I'm going to go ahead and close out our poll results and go over those with you guys. It looks like we have about 50% who are using the Monarch. We have 10% who are considering it and 40% who are not currently using the Monarch.
Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna. All right. So we'll talk through the agenda today. Most of the agenda, those of you who have been in a webinar with myself or Jason, we try to not talk at you too much from PowerPoint slides. So most of the presentation today is going to be really demo heavy. We're going to talk through what happened in 2024, recap the launch of the Monarch, talk about the Monarch 1.2 version that dropped last week. We'll talk about the SDK or software development kit. And then Jason is going to give you a demonstration of the exciting Wing It app, which I think we're all just beyond excited about. So what we're going to do is I'm just quickly showing a picture of the Monarch. I'm going to visually describe it. The Monarch is a device that's about the size of a gaming laptop or so, a little thicker. It has a primary, most of the front surface is taken up by the tactile array. The tactile array is 10 lines by 32 cells of Braille. It has a pan up button in the top left corner, a pan down button in the bottom right hand corner to help you advance your Braille. To the left and the right, it has two D-pads for navigation, up, down, left, and right. Below the tactile screen, you have a zoom out and a zoom in button indicated with a tactile minus and plus. Below that, you have a Perkins style Braille keyboard or Braille entry keyboard with one extra button between dots 1 and 4, which is a orange circular refresh button or action button. So what it's used for is things like pointing and clicking, or if your display doesn't refresh correctly because you've accidentally tapped one of the pins and it doesn't fix it itself, you can force a refresh. On the left edge of the device, you have a USB-A port for things like keyboards or USB thumb drives or things like that. You have the power button or the sleep-wake button, and then behind that you have the charging USB-C port. And on the right edge, you have a I almost said VGA, that's how old I am here, an HDMI port and a volume up, volume down, and a headphone jack. So on the front edge, you have your back, home, and recent applications buttons indicated by triangle, circle, and square. I'm going to jump forward. So just to recap, so the Monarch launched in September of 2024. We had, by the time it launched, and this was really new to APH, right? When we launch a product, oftentimes it's launched out into the wild, and you, as teachers of the visually impaired, oftentimes don't get access to it because it goes directly to your students. What we did is we flipped the script on this side, and we had additional funding through Congress, which was incredibly helpful. And that enabled us to put over 160 devices into trained teachers' hands. So we ran from January of 2024 until the launch time, we ran a teacher training program in all regions of the US here. And I'm happy to say that we had a Monarch in every state. And so being able to put these devices in the hands of teachers of the visually impaired prior to the official launch really gave us the ability to populate training materials within the Hive. If you all haven't joined the Hive at APH, it's a free sign up and you get access to a ton of curriculum material, learning material, webinars with ACVREP credits, all that kind of stuff. So I do urge you to join the Hive and check all that out. But what we were able to do is work with the trained teachers and they would send us their lesson plans or curriculums or just worksheets that they created on how best to teach the Monarch, right? When you're working with something that's really the first of its kind, making sure that there's Introductory material, making sure that there's easy to understand workflows is essential in making sure that folks understand how to use it. And we know that there's some students that you can give a device to and they'll figure it out on their own. But with something this sort of brand new, being the first of its kind, we knew there had to be more material than less. The foundation software was really the beginning, right? I always tell people, not that this is anything similar to an iPhone, but the iPhone was a first of its kind, and this is a first of its kind, right? When the iPhone launched, there was no App Store, there was no Microsoft Exchange synchronization. It was missing things that folks said, these are key features, these have to be here. And the reality was that they came in future updates, but at version 1.0, things have to ship with the ability to grow. And that was really our focus on day one, was making sure that we had the essential features for a student to be successful in the classroom. And then we wanted to build upon that. And so this, the upcoming version 1.2, which we'll talk about in a second, was really us building on that initial foundation. Today, I'm excited to say that we have nearly 600 Monarchs in the field today. So that's 600 kids using them in the classroom, 600 teachers developing curriculum or material, and really us ensuring that there's access to tactile materials faster than there ever has been before. So just to recap the foundation software that shipped with version 1.0, we had a Braille editor so that it's basically what you see is what you get, or what you Braille is what you get. You're writing essentially an electronic version of a Perkins Brailler, right? It's there's no translation happening. It's just primarily there for students to write notes for themselves or to write content for themselves, work out math problems, things like that. That content does not get translated into print. There's a tactile viewer application, which is the first of its kind, complete with the integration with the Tactile Graphics image library as well. There was a beta internet browser, and we launched the internet browser with the beta tag, basically because we knew we had to have an internet browser to connect students to captive portals in schools so that they could log in with their user ID and password and all that kind of stuff, so that they could get access to the Tactile Graphics image library and the internet-enabled features like auto-updating and things like that. But we knew that there was limitations from a multi-line perspective with the internet browser. So we launched it to get it out the door and to get people connected to the internet, but we knew we still had work to do. The word processor is a Microsoft Word style word processor. The really cool part of this is that for you students who are in math or STEM courses, the Microsoft Word keyword word processor has the ability to do MathML translation. So you can convert MathML to Nemeth or UEB math, and then convert it back into print. So it is extremely powerful in filling out math worksheets, doing math homework. That combined with the graphing calculator powered by Desmos is really an incredible sort of innovation in ensuring that students can independently complete their science and math assignments. There was a file browser and a book reader, the Victor Reader application, that had an integration with many libraries such as Bookshare as well as NFB Newsline. So talking through how will Monarch grow, many of you may have already seen last week we pushed version 1.2 over the air. So there is an over the air update that can connect as soon as you're connected to the internet. You'll get a notice that version 1.2 was ready for download, and it allows us to push out updates over the air. We also are developing and have developed an SDK, or software development kit. And really what this does is it enables folks who are not experts on the Monarch, right? Who are not folks here at APH or Humanware, to build applications or experiences for this device. In the same fashion that Google and Apple have created SDKs for their platforms and have millions and millions of developers, We down the road are going to be looking to offer this SDK to partner developers so that they can create apps and experiences for this as well. Some of the apps that have come out that you may have already experienced are the ones that Jason have talked about. And I know that Jason can talk about Monarch Chess and Monarch Startup for days on end. But Jason, you want to give a brief high level of what is chess and what is startup?
Chess originated as an ancient game of no. So with startup, just quickly, we wanted to find a way with the Monarch to kind of change how Braille devices introduce someone to a multi-line display. And the way you do that is not through text, but it's that combination of text and tactile graphics and making it fun. And that's really what we did for the startup tutorial. And with Monarch Chess, it was the idea that we're introducing this new gesture of point to click. And instead of going through a wizard 1,000 times or a tutorial, the idea was to reinforce point and click in a game. And that was really where we came with Monarch Chess. And there's going to be some cool things to talk about that in the fall.
Yeah, in the same fashion that Microsoft kind of taught sighted people how to point and click and drag with a mouse, we took a page out of their book with Monarch Chess. So with Monarch Chess, you point and click on your pieces, you point and click where you want to move them, and then they will move to the different locations. So a real gamified way of keeping the student engaged while teaching a gesture that's going to be crucial throughout the device itself. So Monarch 1.2 is the first official major software update for this platform. It was pushed over the air. If you are connected to the internet and you did not automatically get the update notice to you, you can find it in the All Applications section of the device. If you go to All Applications and find the app called Key Updater, if you press enter on that, it will tell you that there's an update available for the device. And you'll know you have the update on your device because there will be a there will be an app called Keymail or email on the device, on the device's main menu. So you'll see that right away. The update also pushed out updates to the book reading application that we'll go through in a second, along with the really major updates to the internet browser, which is called Ecosia. We also recognize that not every school is going to succeed or have an IT department that is going to be helpful in getting these devices online. And so we wanted to make sure that we offer an offline method of updating these devices as well. So if you are one of those folks, that is not able to go into all applications and go into Key Updater on the device and see the update over the air, on the APH website, under the downloads section of the Monarch shop page, you will see the offline files that you need to put on a thumb drive, and there's a whole process of how to do that. But like I said, if you do have what I've heard from a lot of teachers is if the school is blocking the update for whatever reason, if you are able to take the device home and connect it to your home Wi-Fi, you can put the update on that way as well. A lot of the features on this on this update are directly from you, the teachers, the visually impaired, or things like or students or our testers, right? So the updates includes the Keymail application complete with 365 integration along with Gmail access as well. So you can put your Microsoft 365 account on here. You can put almost any POP or Exchange account on there as well, along with Gmail. There's a new contacts app that allows you to add contacts and sync contacts. The major internet browser updates, as I mentioned before, are when we launched the product, our goal is we need to support getting you on the internet through the captive portal, and we were able to do that. But any other real advanced web browsing, researching, things like that, the web browser really struggled, especially in a multi-line fashion. This update brings a major, major improvement to the Ecosia web browser that we customized for a multi-line experience. So you are able to, your student or you or whoever is able to essentially do everything you would do with an internet browser on this device. We are supporting more Braille fonts in Tactile Viewer as well. So sometimes you would get a PDF graphic that maybe the Braille looked a little strange. One of the things that we do when we pull in a PDF graphic is we recognize the Braille font and ensure that it's displaying correctly, right? And so we had a couple fonts that we weren't seeing correctly in the prior version, and those are rectified here. Book reader improvements are pretty significant, and you now have the ability to add and remove bookmarks. You can search in a text fashion through a Bookshare book or things like that. And most importantly, this supports the first implementation of eBraille. So on that same Monarch shop page, if you go to the download section, you'll see the first ever eBraille book called Treasure Island that was converted from a BRF to an eBraille file, and that'll be a demonstration I do shortly, where anybody can try out the experience of eBraille and see exactly what it's going to be like. We've been talking about eBraille, I feel like, for years, because it has been for years, but many folks don't quite understand what an eBraille file is going to do for them. And so in this case, what you'll be able to do is actually navigate an eBraille file. You'll be able to jump through the table of contents, heading by heading, chapter by chapter, but you'll also see there's an embedded treasure map graphic in that eBraille experience so that you can see what it'll be like when your students encounter a textbook that has graphics in it and what that would look like. So as I said, on the Monarch shop page, you can download that eBraille file directly with your Monarch. That's what I've done. Or you can put it on a thumb drive if you download it with a PC and put it on your Monarch. There's an import option in the Victor Reader app that you can import that eBraille file from a thumb drive. All right. I'll walk you through that in a second, Terry. So one of the issues on the Monarch is that because it's a mobile browser, it automatically adds a .zip or a .zip extension to the eBraille file. If you download it with a PC, it doesn't do it, but on a mobile browser, for whatever reason, the mobile browser always does it. It does the same thing with Safari on the Mac as well. What you need to do is just simply rename that file and delete that .zip extension and hit enter. And then the eBraille file will be recognized by Victor. So I'll walk through that in a second. So what I'm going to do before we get into the Wing It part of the program, I'm going to share my screen of the Monarch, and we're going to do just a few demonstrations of some workflows. All right. Jason, Amanda, you guys seeing my screen?
Yes, Greg.
Beautiful. All right. So on the Monarch's screen, and I'll talk through this just because I don't want to have conflict with my screen reader sharing with my Monarch over the screen, but I'll visually talk through what I'm doing. So oftentimes what will happen is a student will get a worksheet emailed to them, or they need to fill out a worksheet from the classroom teacher, right? So Jason is going to play the role of the math teacher, and he has sent me in my email. So he's sent me in my email. I'm going to do this now. I'm opening my email, and I see there's a message from Jason Martin, and it says homework, and it says see attached. Okay. Now on this, what I'm doing is it says open attachments view. So I'm going to check out. I see there's an attachment here. I'm going to press enter key, and I see math homework 0 to 02, and I'm going to save this file and press enter. It's unable to open the file. It's not happy with me, Jason. So
Because we tried it this morning and it worked. That's
100%. Absolutely. Yep. So we're gonna exit out of here, and I'm gonna come back out. And I'm gonna come down and reopen Jason's email because we tried to be slick and do this ahead of time just so that it would avoid some of the demo gremlins. And so I'm gonna reopen the attachment. 100% Ty. And it's crashing again. This is great. And the best part is, Jason, I 100% I deleted that file from the file manager as well. So trying not to overwrite it. Wow. Let me
Would you
kill
like me
Kima.
to send it to you again?
Yeah, why don't you resend it to me just to move
Real
it
time.
along? I'm gonna kill Keymail quickly and see if it shows up, but we will get this moving. Open up Keymail. I'm gonna go to read. Go down to Jason. Go back to Jason and see if it shows up. And Jason, otherwise I'll just wait for your new one. Open attachment. My favorite is that this is totally a bug in the beta software that I'm running now, but we will get that rectified. Jason, let me know when you get it sent. Otherwise, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to skip to the next demo, which is our
I got you.
demonstration of the Treasure Island. So if I go to Treasure Island here, we have a new shortcut that was asked specifically by teachers of the visually impaired. So if you've got your Monarch connected to a monitor, you can see this view, but then we also show you the visual braille view. And there is ways to do this through the option menu to toggle that on and off. But what I'm going to demo here is we have a new shortcut, Enter, Backspace, and V, that quickly toggles the visual braille on and off. And so what I'm going to do is go into My Books here and press Enter. And here's Treasure Island. So I had already downloaded this and chosen to, actually I'm going to go back just to show you where you do it. Once you've downloaded the Treasure Island book, if you rename it through the file manager and remove that .zip extension, if you come down to the import option on the so it says import book, if you press enter there and point it at the new Treasure Island eBraille file, then it will import it into the My Books folder here, and that's how I got Treasure Island. So I'm going to press enter on Treasure Island, and it's loading up. Treasure Island, now these books can get pretty big. We are, in the next update, we're going to be optimizing this even further, but what we're going to be doing here is speeding up the, I hit the wrong button, speeding up the ability to load these books from the start. So what I have here is the visual representation of what I see on my tactile display. So I see Treasure Island. And actually, I think Jason said if I take this away, you still see the content.
Yes.
All right, get out of here. And so what I'm going to do here is the first thing I want you to see is that down below we put a tactile graphic, and it actually says tactile graphic right there, but I see a symbol in Braille that shows tactile graphic. So what you can do in an eBraille is the shortcut was backspace, enter, V for visual Braille output. So what I'm going to do here is come down and I'm going to point and click on that tactile graphic. And it's just as simple as pointing and clicking. And that graphic is going to open up in the tactile viewer. There we go. All right. So what I have here is a 2-page tactile graphic. Tactile graphics, for those of you who are familiar with it, often consists of things like a key and then the actual graphic. So I'm going to open page 1, which is a multi-page tactile graphic. You're going to see that tactile graphic represented here. So I have a graphic that is really zoomed out. Now, those of you who have experienced this before, if I point and click, and Jason, let me know visually if that's showing the zoom in or not.
Yeah, you're good. You
Okay.
are.
So what you see here is I've zoomed in on the graphic, and now I'm seeing Treasure Island. Then it says key. I can also zoom right back out, and I can come down here. I feel some symbols, and I can't really tell what those symbols mean because we're zoomed out here, because it's taking what a graphic would look like from an 11.5 by 11 sheet of paper and trying to put it into the Monarch's smaller display. So what I can do is I can point and click on these things that I don't know what they are. I see a symbol here. I'm going to point and click on it and zoom in, and I see now that I see like a triangle shape. It looks like, and if I come to the right, I see that that triangle shape is a hill. I can come down a little further and see that there's like a circular kind of blob thing, and that represents the swamp. And then I see looks like a braille cell, and that represents the treasure. Okay, so now that I know that material, I can flip to the actual graphic by pressing enter and the letter O, or kind of the symbol looks like a right arrow or an arrow pointing right. And that's a shortcut to flip to the next page of the PDF. All of these shortcuts, remember, every shortcut that I'm talking about is located in the context menu, space with M, or by holding down that square button on the device. So now I've flipped open to the actual tactile graphic, and I see some blurry content towards the top, so I'm going to zoom in and see what this says by pointing and clicking on that blurry content. And now I see Treasure Island, and if I come down here, I see there's like a number line kind of experience, and I see that these are in relation to miles away. So I say 0, 1, 2, and 3 miles. So now what I can do is I can see that if I come down, I'm seeing the four-mast hills. So I'm coming down a little further, and what I'm doing is just navigating this with my D-pad, arrowing down. And let's see if we can find that treasure. So I'm going to keep coming down. I see over here, I see the Spyglass Hills, and I can feel the triangles a little bit over to the right. I'm going to bring those kind of centered. I'm just continuing to arrow down, using almost like you're playing a video game, if it makes sense. And if I keep coming down, looking for that treasure, I still see some hills. But then over to the right, I see that braille cell symbol right next to what I appear to be one of the swamps. And so I've instantly been able to find that that's where the treasure is located, in the Spyglass Hills. Or I'm sorry, not if I come over here, in the Cape of Ye Woods. So that's where we're looking around here. So now, those of you may ask, how do I get back from my graphic? Oftentimes, folks, when they're reading a textbook, right, you flip forward a bunch of pages to a graphic, and then you flip back to an associated question, right? That was the number one thing and the hardest problem to solve in regards to eBraille, right? How do we get that same physical flipping of pages from a graphic to a question? And it's as simple as double-clicking your square button on the front of the device. It flips right back exactly where I left off on my eBraille file. So now, if I want to go into the table of contents by pressing space with T, I can now see that there is a Part 1 heading that I can jump to that says the Old Buccaneer. So I'm going to point and click or arrow down to Part 1. I'll keep coming down. I'm continuing to find it. Part 1, right there, Part 1. And if I press the Enter key, we'll jump straight to Part 1, just like if you were using an EPUB or a DAISY file. Now I see Part 1, the Old Buccaneer. I'll turn on my visual display so you can see what I'm seeing. And I see Section I, the Old Sea Dog at Admiral Benbow. And from here, I could read this book just as I would be reading continuously in a textbook. And as soon as I get to the last line of display, I can press the page down button and it pans the next 10 lines. If I'm an early Braille reader and I'm not familiar with this level of spacing, you can zoom in or press the plus button a few times, and you can spread the Braille out for any level of reader at this point. So now I'm moving down and I'm only seeing 6 lines of Braille with more space in between, allowing us to really customize how that Braille looks for an early reader. Let me get back to my 10 lines. And as I said, you can drop bookmarks in here. Now, the one caveat of eBraille right now, and this is something that we're going to be looking to solve in the future, is eBraille is mimicking a Braille book, right? Which means that there is no text to speech when you're reading it, right? It's trying to mimic the same experience that you would get from a physical textbook in a digital fashion. There are ways that we believe we can solve this, but we are in a situation where right now, the spec of the eBraille file, you are able to read the content, but you will not hear a text-to-speech voice. So that is eBraille in a nutshell. You all can experience it by downloading the Treasure Island book from the APH website. And I'm going to jump back really quickly to see if we got our email. And if we didn't, I'm going to turn it over to Jason to quickly demo the Wing It app because I want to make sure you all see that. So open this, opening this. We're going to see if Jason Martin emailed me anything.
This is a great excuse for not doing my homework, Greg. I've heard plenty of them, but this is the first time in a webinar.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm going to open attachment view. Okay, I'm going to choose to save it. And now it has saved that file because now I see that it says saved at this point. So now I've saved my homework. I'm going to go into the word processor. And this is a math homework assignment that Jason has for me that has MathML in it. I'm going to open. And now I see math homework 002. What's really funny is all of those files that said that they failed did not in fact fail. They all are there. So that's really funny. That's a bug that we need to fix. So I see math homework 002 docx. I'm going to press the enter key. And it's now loading the math assignment that has the MathML embedded in it. And what we're going to do is walk through. I'm just going to answer one of these questions and then just show you how you would reattach it or send it back to the teacher at this point. So now we're seeing the math homework assignment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to question number 1. It says 1/2 plus 1/2 equals, and I need to get to the assignment answer here. So what I'm going to do is point and click on the number 1. I've moved down 1 line to the answer. Hold on 1 second. I bumped the math mode, Jason. Okay. Let me get out of this. I'm just going to skip this really quick and show you how I would reattach a file. So what I'm going to do in the event that I reattach this, I'm going to go to email. So I'm going to go back to Jason's email. If I wanted to reply to Jason's email, I would press backspace and the letter R really quick. And then I'm going to say, here is my homework. And I'm trying to get this sent just so that you see how you would attach a file because I recognize we're running out of time. So I've done, here's my homework. I'm going to now do the context menu to attach a file. Boom. and I'm going to attach this math homework to the email. It is now attached, and I'm going to press backspace with S to send that email. And Jason now he will receive my homework, my completed homework, in the same fashion that many of the cited peers also do the same thing, right? So being able to exchange wirelessly without having to throw the homework on a thumb drive. A student can walk through, like I said, all these commands are in the context menu if you do need to look them up, so you don't have to have a cheat sheet next to you at all times. So with that, I'm going to come out of the share here, and I want Jason to briefly introduce Wing It, and then we can do a demonstration of that as well. So Jason, what is Wing It?
So I'm really excited to talk about Wing It and what it is. It's a connection really of an iOS application and the Monarch application for ad hoc drawing. So it enables a TVI or really a classmate or anyone to draw on an iPhone or iPad, and paired with the Monarch, it appears instantly, which is pretty neat. How the technology works, it's with low Bluetooth technology. So being a teacher in the classroom, I understood how difficult sometimes getting into the wireless network can be. So what we did when developing this was we created a way that you can open up the app, open up the Monarch, and it instantly just connects. Um, and one kind of key feature that we did have here was that drawings could be shared over email or saved from the iOS device and shared to a Monarch device. So if you spend your time creating a cool diagram of your school, or you're drawing something that you spend a lot of time with, that you can save and share.
And that sharing, the primary focus of this was that classmate or TVI or even classroom teacher is sitting near the student and is able to draw on this device, create a tactile graphic, and instantly the user, the Monarch user, sees it on their tactile display. But as Jason said, it's not just limited to that. You, as the TVI, can have it at home, and creating a graphic for tomorrow, save it on your device, on your iOS device or iPad, and then bring it tomorrow. Or with now the support of email, you can share that drawing you just created in the Wing It app. You can share it via email and email it to your student, and they can see it in their Wing It app as well.
It's incredible in the sense that it's just an ad hoc drawing tool, that it's not to replace a tactile graphics artist. It's really for that teacher who goes, I'm thinking of another example of how I would show a cell or a volcano in the moment, and then using that in the moment ability to draw this for students. So you want to see it?
Absolutely. I just want to wrap really quickly. We all have great ideas, but there's also this scenario in the classroom that I'm sure all of our TVIs in the audience have never experienced, which is the classroom teacher springs a graphic on you and you didn't know it was coming, and then they say, well, your student can just hold on and they can look at it tomorrow. One of the things that we recognize here is that there is just a limitation in impromptu learning tools, right? And so to be able to instantly draw a representation of a graphic so that learning can continue and the student isn't just stuck waiting or doing something else, was really a key goal of Jason and the team during this process too. So Jason, what I'm going to do is stop my share, and I'm going to have you share.
Oh, in the meantime, while you guys are transitioning, we will do another poll question.
That
So
is my fault. I didn't go forward. See?
it is totally fine. So the next question is actually an open-ended answer, and this will really help us with some of our product developments and just some feedback for the Monarch. So if you guys could provide that, we would be really grateful. The question is, what feature would be most important for the Monarch to support? And you can type that in on your end, and we will see the answers on our end and share those with our developers and product managers so that we can keep improving the device over time. And we'll give that just a minute. So Jason, you can share your screen if you want to and start talking in the meantime, and I will end the poll at some point so we can get the most answers as possible.
Okay, great.
Do you share your sound?
I don't need to share sound through the actual video.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
There's no sound. It's just me narrating.
That's right.
So, and I'll come back on with video. And here we go. I'm going to close out your poll, Amanda. And so, as you guys finish out the poll, I just wanted to kind of give an overview of what this interface is and tell you why I recorded this feature. So, sharing through the iPhone and the Monarch at the same time, really for a webinar, I came to realize it's kind of tough to give you an idea of the process side by side. So what I did was I captured through the iPhone to mitigating effect. Some things aren't perfect through the capture. And what I'll do is as we start showing more of this, you'll see a representation of what's on the Monarch screen at the top side of your screen. So what we're looking at on the screen is a general layout of the Monarch application on iOS. So this is what it's going to look like. For this was my iPhone, but it runs on iPhone and iPad. So at first we've got a clear button and the Wingit's title and a connected button, which is simply what you press to connect to the Monarch. That's it. In the center is a giant canvas that you can draw on and manipulate objects, move, and braille. And at the bottom, I'm not going to go through every single tool and feature because I would probably bore you to death and go, Jason, I've used Microsoft Paint before. But we've got all of the things that are really familiar to someone who's used any type of drafting tool or really just kind of like Microsoft Paint. So I'm going to hit play and narrate kind of through this video. So I'm picking up the shape menu and I'm starting to draw a shape. So in Greg's homework, what we didn't get to is there were three shapes at the bottom of his homework that really didn't pick up well in MathML. They didn't show well at all, and we kind of did it that way intentionally. So while a document might be designed well for, say, equations, it might not suit geometry to the best of its ability if it's digital. So this is where this came in. So with this, what I was doing was replicating some of those questions that Greg had. Now, the first one was drawing a rectangle, and I'm using my finger to do this, so you're not seeing a mouse. And when I drew the square, actually, I'm tapping on the tool button, and then I'm actually going to Braille. So the iPhone's capture was a bit delayed. So I actually was able to type 4 centimeters on one side, and now it's capturing the next 4 centimeters on the other side. So literally, you can tap and type in Braille in English or in literary words, and then it comes up in whatever the Braille code is on the student's device. So from that design, and I'm going to move back just one quick second.
And just to reiterate, Jason was typing on the iOS keyboard in print, and the Wingit app is changing those labels to Braille, which is something that I'm pretty excited about because we know that classmates and classroom teachers don't know Braille, right? So this enables anybody to work with this application.
Anybody, and parents included, Greg. So what I love about this is instantly I've created this question for Greg. So there was the area of a square, the area of a rectangle. And so instead of actually hitting clear like we would think about in Word and moving this off the screen, I'm kind of using this like a giant blank canvas. And so what I'm doing is I'm panning the screen across. And by hitting the pan feature, I'm moving the entire screen like I'm taking a page and just stretching it across. So when I do that, I'm going to get another part of a blank canvas in the Wingit app. And so I'm going to draw a rectangle here and start labeling in Braille some of the same features or same measurements for Greg, the measurement of the sides and the top. And so what you see on iOS again, there's a bit of an artifact here, but on the right-hand side is directly what you're seeing on the Monarch. That is a rectangle that's popping in. And then I'm going to Braille. I'm typing in print the measurements of Braille. And I can't remember what this was, Greg. I'm thinking it's 4 centimeters by 5. So again, when I type in 4 cm and hit done, it appears where I've tapped, and I can tap somewhere else instantly and type in the next measurement. But I realized I made a mistake. I put in 5 centimeters on the short side of the rectangle, and I said, hey, this isn't right. So using the move function, I can tap a place that I've already worked with in Braille and actually move that label around. So some of these, if the label is over our shape a little bit, I can tap on these labels and move. One thing the student can then do is move through these images. So that square that I did earlier and this rectangle that I just drew, they can now look at the Monarch, and using the D-pads, up, down, left, right, they can navigate through this image independently. If I'm a teacher and I want to add something new, and I say add in a triangle later on, further down the line, it will instantly snap my students back to what I'm drawing and get their attention. But until I do that, really they're on their own to kind of explore this document. So it's not just a single page, but more of a big canvas with Winged. So again, this is the student moving independently. And also, as we get bigger with our drawings, we have the ability to kind of zoom in and out the same way we do with the tactile graphics image viewer, except our Braille does a little bit different and stabilizes even when we zoom further in or further out. It stays relatively the same size. So what you're seeing now is a direct visual representation of the Monarch screen, that up close representation. But now I'm going to clear it off and actually draw a triangle. That was the last part of Greg's assignment, was to give me the perimeter or area of a triangle. And so I drew it quickly. And again, I'm not sure what was going on with my iOS capture, but it chops off the top. But the Monarch screen, if you see at the top right corner, that it's matching up quite well. And so when I add in these Braille labels, you can then notice that the Braille label at the side and the bottom, one can use for their triangle and then move around it. So it's a very quick representation of just math and the ability to draw very quickly. So what I'd like to show is just a quick drawing representation of a school library. So instead of doing math functions or geometry, just the idea of a tactile map. So what I've drawn here very quickly is what you would see on the Monarch, a representation of a couple of rectangles, which are going to represent buildings, and a couple of bookshelves. And I would guide a student through this as I'm doing it in real time to say, well, this is the bookshelf in the library. Here are the tables in the library. And here's the reception area by drawing a triangle in the bottom right corner. This is a very minimalist graphic. It could be used with young kids as well as old. And where do we enter into the library? I love to show some of these shapes and some of these fill patterns. So I added a star just to show where we've come in at. So there wasn't quite enough room on that screen to actually add Braille there. So I panned over to add on a "You are here" message in Braille. So giving the idea of "you're here" with the star. Above it, in a rectangle, I'm adding the words restroom and then reading tables. So in just a very short amount of time using the Wing It app, I could orient someone or a student to a new room pretty efficiently. I didn't show this feature as I captured it, but students can independently, say you draw this layout for your perfect library. Well, a student can then come in and independently find these rooms and these shapes on the tactile graphic and label it themselves in Braille.
Yeah, and I think that's something that is going to go overlooked, and I'm really excited about that feature. We enabled it so that when there's a graphic on the display, you are able to point and click at a location. When you're touching the Monarch's tactile display, you can point and click, and the student, completely separate from the iOS app, can can add their own labels to a graphic as well. So you think about it, right? If you're doing a math problem and you want the student to come up with the hypotenuse of the triangle, they can actually add their own label to that hypotenuse as well. There's a few questions I wanted to jump in and answer. So Liz, I think it was you that asked, is this accessible to a blind person? Absolutely. We believe in inclusive design. We developed it using what's called the direct touch API with Apple's VoiceOver. So if you've ever used something like the Apple TV remote or things like that, what will end up happening is, as a blind person, you'll touch the blank canvas and you'll hear drawing canvas, I think, or something like that. You double tap and it says drawing started. And at that point, anything that you touch on the screen will be drawn. If you let go, I think we have a 1.5 or 2 second timeout where when you lift your finger, it times out and then it returns back to normal voiceover mode. So a blind person can totally draw on this. I've done many a demo with it. Adding labels can be tricky as a blind person, but that's also why we added the Braille labeling function on the Monarch's display. Because if you can't feel where your drawing is, let's say you're drawing a triangle on the screen, adding labels to the screen can be a challenge if you're totally blind, but using the Monarch's display and pointing and clicking where you want those labels is totally possible. So I always tell people this is version 1 of a tool that is once again another first of its kind type tool, and we're looking to get a ton of feedback. And Jason, I think we have some potential field testers. At least I'm looking in the chat here.
I hope so.
So Jason, do you have any folk or any guidance on how they can get involved in field testing? Because we're looking to field test this next month, I believe.
There is a sign up that went out recently, and Greg, I knew that we should have included it at the end, but if I can get a link and a
So
resource
one of the things that we can get is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda, we'll have all the contact information of the folks on this webinar.
Yep.
We can send out that field testing sign up link, because one of the things that we do have to do in field testing this is we have to add you to what's called a test flight tester list. So we'll send out the link to the sign up page so that you can get on the list. And the nice thing is, for those of you who have Monarchs already and an iOS device, it's really easy to get you involved in field testing. So I think at this point we can target the last poll, Amy, Amanda.
Yeah, sure. So we have one more question for you. And again, this is also an open-ended question. So we would really, really love if you participated and gave some feedback for us. The question is, how could you see yourself using the Wing It app either in or out of the classroom? And we'll give you a little bit of time to go ahead and answer this question. And of course, Jason and Greg will get these results afterwards, along with anybody else that is looking to help improve the Monarch and the apps that we use with it.
So this will have, as you're filling that out, there's 2 parts to this app experience. So we have a Monarch app that you would install on the Monarch, and then you would have a iOS app that you would install on your iPhone or iPad. Anything to add, Jason, that I missed?
It's fantastic for maps. That's the last part of the demo we didn't get to, but it's just really incredible what it's going to do for O&M and just instantaneous sports. Again, I've used it with my dad showing football plays. I can't wait to see the creative uses that teachers come up with that I haven't even considered or thought of.
Jason, you forgot to tell your NFB story for showing somebody around the exhibit hall. If you guys know NFB, you know that the exhibit hall is huge. And a lot of people don't really know their way maybe to the restroom or something like that. And Jason was able to direct somebody using the Wing It app last June or July when we were there.
And I draw a little kid's grandma. That's what she wanted me to draw, and it was grandma. So it was fabulous.
Although she did correct his Braille skills, so. Just one question I saw in the chat. I'm not sure if it was answered or not, but somebody wanted to know if somebody writes, for example, in the Wing It app, you guys said that it converts over to regular like the text over to Braille. Does it do grade 1 or contracted Braille, grade 2, or does it do both?
It's both. It's whatever the system would be. So once it's transferred over from the iOS image, it actually converts to whatever the system is.
Awesome. That's really cool. Cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end this poll. So, any last minute stragglers, get your answers in soon. But thank you guys for joining us today. Thanks for presenting. I know that a lot of people found this information really valuable and they were so excited to have an update on their Monarch. I know having an internet browser and also having mail kind of on the go can definitely make changes. And obviously we're updating the device all the time. So we love feedback from you guys and we're so glad that you joined us today. So thank you, Jason. Thank you, Greg. And thank you, everybody who joined us. And we hope that you have a great rest of your day and that you took some things that you can carry with us. Bye now.